Captain Matt Perachio down here in the workshop, we call it, from Tighten Up Charters and Bluefin Plus. Over the last 25 years, guys, I've come up with a bunch of reasons, and we're going to start with 4 reasons that have helped me become successful. When I had my first real boat, I call it, which was an Edgewater, the night before I would always look at the temperature, and I'd say on the phone, I'd look at the weather app and be like, oh my God, it's going to be in the 30s tonight. And I'd get to the boat, and I didn't have a good battery gauge on that boat back then. And I used to start the boat, and I'd always get nervous until that boat started. You know, so that was one of the things that always concerned me about fishing in cold weather, right? Once the boat started, I was like, all right, we're good to go. But getting to the boat ramp and knowing that your battery was going to be good enough to start was one of my biggest concerns. As far as batteries are concerned, if you're concerned about your battery all in the cold weather months, I would just put it on a charger the night before, right? If you don't have solid state marine batteries, then I would maybe carry a jump pack in your boat, a small jump pack, if you were doing long drifts in the cold weather and you didn't know the draw on your batteries. That's my tip is, you know, carry a jump pack with you. Again, I had the solid state batteries, and it's one of the reasons I got them was to help me sleep better at night, knowing I had this power behind me in the morning. When we come out of the harbor in the cold weather months, you know, let's just say we'll use December. My first goal is to go get bait. The 2 things I concentrate most on in the cold weather months for bluefin are the fattiest bait I can get. No sand eels. They don't feed on sand eels, you know, as much this time of year. The bluefish are gone, and the bunker, menhaden, those are gone. So the fattiest bait fish here are the herring and the mackerel. That's what I want to concentrate most on. I'm more of a topwater guy, jigging, light tackle guy, but those fish are usually the first ones to leave. They're the last ones to get here, and they're the first ones to leave because they are more susceptible to water change and water temperature than the big ones are. That's why in June, the first ones to get here are these dump trucks, these Goliath giant bluefin. They're the first ones to get here. And don't be scared to use a big bait. These tuna can be 1,200, 1,300 pounds. They're gonna eat anything that they can fit in their mouths, right? So that would be my plan. Most of the time when I'm bait fishing, guys, for giants or even for recreational tuna, I like to drift, right? Certain guys like to anchor. I like to drift. I'll take you guys through a day of mine, right? We're gonna come out, we're gonna get our bait, and now the first rod I set is my floater. And I'm gonna explain to you why. I put my bait on, my bait goes, the hook goes right through the back. Usually around 20, 25 feet above my bait is where I put my balloon. Balloon goes on. I put the balloon into the water, mackerel swimming nice. I put the reel in free spool. I put the boat 1 click in gear, and I call it power setting, where I can get that bait away from the boat quickly, and I can get that bait fishing, okay? And we're gonna get that bait away, motor back into neutral. I'm gonna go up wherever you set your reel, strike, right above strike, whatever. Now that balloon, that floater is fishing. Now my second rod I'm gonna put is my down bait. My down bait always goes in the back of the boat, right? And there's a reason why I put the down bait in the back of the boat. It's because I wanna be able to mark it on my transducer, right? You will see your lead and you will see your bait on your transducer at a certain depth, and you will know exactly where it's sitting. Let's take what we just learned about drift fishing, and I'm going to combine it with the cold weather fishing. Later in the year, there's hardly any boaters out there. The crowds are way down, and if your batteries don't start, your VHF isn't going to turn on either. So you're not even going to be able to call somebody unless you have an inReach that can get you some service or some attention to, you know, your emergency here. Your cell phone, you probably don't have service either. So you're really in a jam, you know? And I've known a couple guys. I had a guy last year that I had to go tow him in because he was out on the bank. He was fishing. It was late November. He drifted. He just forgot. He fell asleep in his beanbag chair and he drifted off. And all of a sudden, he calls me. Luckily, he had service. East of the bank, he had service. And we went out and got him. His batteries were stone dead. We didn't have to tow him in, thankfully. We just brought a jump pack out to him. He jumped the boat and off he was. But that's one of the things I was concerned about, is what made me switch over to solid state. Is it's not a concern anymore. You know, that's one of the reasons that, you know, every battery in the boat was switched over to solid state. and I'll always be with solid state because it's peace of mind and it's safer for my clients in the long run. All right, we've covered drifting, we've covered cold weather. One of the other things I want to talk to you guys about is my transducer and my screens and how I read them. I think this is one of the biggest, not mistakes, but it's one of the biggest things guys tend to be intimidated by when they first start fishing for bluefin. I run Garmin on the boat. A lot of my other friends run Simrad. I'm very, very comfortable with Garmin, so that's what I'm gonna talk to you about. I always turn my gain up. In the back of your boat, you have your either through hull or transom mounted transducer. It's gonna come down in a 30-degree cone off the bottom, right off the bottom of the boat. When you turn your gain up, what it does is it expands that cone to be greater, okay? So, for example, there's been times where I've had my gain turned up 85 to 95% is what my gain is at. I've marked 2 fish on the screen, 3 fish, 4 or 5 fish on the screen when my gain was up. If I turn my gain back down to where it is normally set at, nice blue screen, red bottom, those fish will disappear, right? And what that means is the fish that are on the outside of the cone, I'm actually being able to read them. Once I turn my gain down, my cone shrinks back down to that 30-degree mark, and those fish are gone now. I'm not marking them. So what you're doing is you're giving yourself more of a field of vision underneath your boat, which is key to knowing where you are. Bluefin in deep water, a lot of time will mark just like striped bass in shallow water. It's relative, right? The depth to the size of the fish is all relative. So you'll see a lot of time on my boat, you'll see, it'll look like a whole school of striped bass on my screen, but I'm in 350 feet of water. That's not a whole school of striped bass, it's a whole school of tuna. Striped bass in 350 feet of water will show up and they'll almost look like bait. That's one thing you guys want to be aware of, is the depth that you're in also will affect how those fish mark. If you have a mark on your screen that's, roundish, or it looks a little solid, but you see some holes in it, tiny little holes in it, that's not a tuna. That's a tight little pile of bait, right? Tuna will mark as whole, big red marks. Now Garmin, traditionally people say, oh, that must not be a fish. I hear it all the time because it's not a boomerang or it's not an arch, right? Simrad typically has little arches that they mark it. Garmin, there's no rhyme or reason as to what they mark. They just mark a shape that's down there, and the image that you're gonna see on your screen reflects directly on what that marks. That's all it is. Garmin loves to run at 16 volts. That's what those machines are intended to run at. And that's one of the other reasons I bought solid state, is because they run higher than most other traditional batteries run at. And I was like, I'm gonna get a better screen, I'm gonna get better markings, and I'm gonna get a better picture overall as to what is under my boat. Fourth and final tip of the day, guys, is if I were to choose a couple lures to go out with every day, or what's rigged on at least 90% of my rods every single day, are these lures here. This is actually one of the original Ronzies. This is made about 10 years ago when the bunker oil was infused in the bodies and they used to turn gold. We never used to use them after they turned gold because we didn't think they were effective, but turns out they was one of the best colors. But this one I don't use anymore. This is when Ron made them in his kitchen. So this one just sits down here. But I just wanted to show you guys. The Pro Tail is one of those lures here that you really can't use it wrong. There's really no way to use it wrong. I like them in the 4 and the 5 ounce, in that color and this color. This is what Hoagie calls olive. And these two are probably two of the most effective colors that I have. They make them in up to a 6 ounce one, but yes, the 6 ounce will work, but I don't like it as much as the 4 and 5 ounce because it's actually a little bit too heavy to cast. And the 4 or 5 ounce, you can actually cast farther, if that makes sense, because you can get the rod around quicker. This Hoagie slider, this one, and then I'm gonna show you real quick. This one's had some work done on it over the years, but this is what Mike calls the olive color. This one, the blue one was extremely effective for us this year. I mean, very effective for us. And then obviously the bone. The bone one is basically the industry standard east of the Cape. But those 3 sliders, there will always be at least 1 or 2 of them on our entire arsenal when we're going out. These lures, you really can't use them wrong. That's what's so important about them. These lures are rigged out of the package with VMC hooks, and we've caught some absolute monsters on these lures, and we've never had an issue with any of those hooks right out of the package. Anybody who's been in this industry for any length of time is familiar with Siren. Siren makes probably one of the most well-made, well-tested lures out there. This is the Antidote 130, and it's in, you know, Siren makes it in various colors, but that is one of the top most favorite lures out of the charter captains on Cape Cod is a Siren. And then, you know, industry standard, the Ronzi 10-inch in either the colors that I would choose are either silver, they call it pearl, it's more of a white, it's really not a pearl anymore. And then there's a very, very faded green color. But if I were to go top to bottom, I'd probably be silver number 1, white, pearl number 2, and then that green number 3. If you guys tune into any of my videos on Instagram or Facebook and you see any of the rods on my boat and we're going out for a trip, guarantee you guys see all of these on those rods on a daily basis, you know? So if you were to start, this is where you guys start, and I guarantee it would make you successful. Any more information you guys want, any more tips you guys want, visit bluefinplus.com, and we have a load of videos up there. We do 4 to 5 every month in the winter. We load up 4 or 5 new ones on average every month. In the summer, it gets a little bit less because we're busy on the water. But in the summer, we get about 2 to 3 videos every month. Big shout out to Solid State Marine. Thank you very much for, you know, being part of our team. I'm glad to be part of your team too. They've helped our career and they've helped our charter industry grow. So those batteries are also available on bluefinplus.com. Exactly the ones that we use in the Onslow are on there, and all the information about Solid State is on that website also. It's a direct link to their website, but you can see exactly what we use on our website too.